Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate you all taking the time to be here. Just so you know, this is a timer. I can only record for 29 minutes on this, so it'll go off and I'll restart it again, so I have the whole thing. But yeah, I'm Connor. I run a company called Find Me in Seattle, and I tell stories about people in the city, people, places, entrepreneurs, restaurants in the city, and I run a marketing agency on the side that drives all the revenue of how I make money in the business. And I kind of believe in having the contrast of both, where all the storytelling doesn't say anything about I'm an agency and I do all this marketing and I have services. It's just about creating content, being entertaining, inspiring, or educating, and drawing an audience for there, because it has become pretty much the first portfolio company for the agency. So I started creating all this content as a way to prove to future clients of what they should be doing as well to grow their business. And as this has all evolved, I really think creating content and producing media and putting it out and distributing it online opens up a lot of opportunity for everyone. And anyone who's passionate about anything, if you have what you all do, I've heard the stories already. That's why a lot of you are here. You have deeper passions, and if you can talk about those things every day and figure out a way to produce something simple and put it online, it can create brand new businesses for you. And we've seen from YouTube and Facebook and all the social platforms, there are a lot of people making a decent amount of money talking about peanut butter and jelly, playing video games, crafting, doing all these things that they care about, because they can create an audience and they can monetize on those audience in lots of different ways. And so I carry this camera and I document as much of my life as I can, and I put it out there, which I know is very scary and it's still a little weird for me, but it's provided me an immense amount of opportunity, and for the little amounts that I've been doing it. So a little bit of background. I grew up in Los Angeles. I went to college in Oregon. I got a business degree. I was a recruiter for the first 18 months out of college. They didn't say that they wanted me in the sales program, so they gave me an option to continue being a recruiter or take a 2-week severance and go find another job. So I took the severance because I wasn't there to recruit. I got a job at the Microsoft retail store. Took a big step down from wearing a suit and tie and like making phone calls every day to selling Xbox in the Bellevue Square Mall. And that position turned into personal training, where if you bought a computer, you could sit one-on-one with me and learn how to use Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Xbox, whatever it was that had a Microsoft logo on it. And that became all my job. I was no longer selling computers. I was just teaching mostly old people how to use their computer and doing one-on-one sessions. And that kind of led into the success of me doing consulting now. But after that, I joined this company called Notice, and I used to walk around. The fact that this is sustainability and I'm reflecting on some of this stuff, I'm like, man, this was so wasteful. But I'll pass these around. For 5 years, I walked around and I made these maps of all the neighborhoods in Seattle, and I sold advertising to every single brick and mortar business that there was. I also did a downtown one for all the hotels, all the attractions. And I pass those around, and you can hold on to them and keep passing them. And this experience of going door to door for 5 years, meeting all these businesses, just taught me a lot about needs of small business owners and what they're struggling with. Marketing is like one of the big things that they don't have any time for. And these maps were actually just a Trojan horse to build relationships with local businesses, because we were a tech company, right? We were trying to raise venture capital and build apps and build software to scale up and like save the world. And they're still doing that. No discredit to them. And they're a great company. And this was a very good positioning for them to go and meet all these businesses. But while I was working with so many businesses, what I started offering on the side to them, because our tech wasn't growing and we weren't really delivering on the tech side, but the maps were getting distributed all over, I started just giving hours of my time in return for them buying advertising. And so I say, hey, like every quarter, every month, have me come in, I'll help you with your website. I'll help you with Facebook. I'll create content for you. I'll help you with Google SEO. And I would just go home at night and Google how to do all these things. And so in that time, I learned how to code like HTML, CSS, which led into WordPress. And now I mostly just do everything in Squarespace because that's easy and scalable. And then, yeah, I learned photography, videography, and most importantly, all the social platforms and how to run ads on those platforms. And I'm like a huge believer now in Facebook and Instagram specifically, but also podcasts and YouTube. Those are the most powerful platforms to market on right now. and they're free, right? Which is just incredible. And if you believe that Facebook changed the election, then you definitely got to believe that it can change a lot of other things. And the ads are so underpriced right now, right? To reach 1,000 people can cost you $1, right? Especially if the content's right, right? And you can focus it in on hyper-local audiences. So what I'm starting to do right now is I'm creating content for Fremont, for Capitol Hill, for Ballard, for Green Lake. I could do it for Bainbridge Island and run ads just at the locals in those neighborhoods. And in 4 or 5 years, that's what every company is going to do, I think. I think Coca-Cola and Geico and AT&T and Verizon, they're all going to make content that are tailored exactly to you as individuals. And that's really where marketing is changing so much, because up until this point, it's been about, let's do one big ad campaign that appeals to millions of people. We're going to focus on one commercial, one piece of creative, and we're going to scale that out. And I just don't see that's where the world's going, because everyone now has their own little niches, and all these social platforms have all the data to know who fits in all those niches. And so what I'm trying to create as a marketing agency is how to create content for micro audiences. And yeah, and so I film everything, and I walk around the city every day, and I meet local business owners, and I try to tell their stories. And it all started with an Instagram account. So I was making these maps, and my friends started asking me like, hey, I'm going out with my girlfriend tonight in Capitol Hill. You're the map guy. Like, where should we go? So I realized I started having this, people saw me in a certain way to give advice. So then I just started documenting through Instagram how I made all these maps every single day. Right? So I'd walk into a cool coffee shop and have a meeting, and I would post about the coffee shop. And then I'd go to the cool store, and I'd talk about the owner of the store. And that just kept building up. And because I was doing it every day, it separated me in a storyteller platform. And yeah, it just started building up and building up. And now I have a decently sized local audience. I mean, I don't have a ton of followers, but all of those followers live in Seattle. So now when I post about a local business, it changes consumer behavior, and I know they go and they visit those places. And pretty much I've seen that because I get tagged in them when they go there, right? And the businesses see the uptick, and I've got the data to see how many people refollowed that business or looked at the profile, and it all changed. And so the big thing that I believe in with all of you and how passionate you all are is I like highly encourage to embrace how easy it is to create content. And this content's going to live on for a really long time. And I think all of us have the opportunity to build our own businesses and our own brands through talking about the things that we love. So if you want to make a difference in recycling, you can talk about how you're doing that. There's one girl I follow that's called Zero Waste Geek. I would highly recommend following her. And every day she just talks about how she lives her life trying to be less wasteful, right? And she gives tips and tricks. And I think that would appeal to a lot of you. And yeah, now she's starting to get sponsorship gigs, right? And getting different opportunities to promote products and share her stories and meet different people who are doing that. And with social media, you can do it for relatively cheap.
Zero Waste Geek is graduated this program.
Is she? That is amazing. I did not know that. She'll be super stoked to hear that I'm here then.
Yeah, when she left here, she started a business creating pesto from basically green waste, like carrot tops and things like that. And was trying really hard to start a food business, and ultimately it was like this is an expression of my passion, but really my passion is like zero waste. And so one way of exploring that was by using food waste to create a new product, but there's also other ways I can explore that. So she started Zero Waste Geek. I think now she's working for I forget the name of the company, but it's one who like recycles packaging, creates packaging out of recycled materials.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. I did not know that. But yeah, I really am just a big believer because it's worked for me, right? And it's taken a long time. It's been years of creating this content and building one-on-one relationships with all these people. But mostly because of Instagram, it's so much easier to reach your customers now, right? And to really learn about those people, understand what they want, what they need, and have that direct feedback loop. And so I think earlier today you guys were talking about how like big companies are getting disrupted. It's because they're creating different types of content. They're scaling it through less expensive marketing channels, and they're really telling a story that appeals to a set demographic of people. So if you guys know about Wish, Wish is like the biggest online store behind Amazon, all built off the back of Facebook. So they put all of their money into Facebook ads, You've probably seen movement watches if you've been on Facebook. That's like a very common, and they've built a, I think they're a $10-20 million business now, all just on the back of Facebook ads, because they can target those specific people. And what I've done to grow mine is I take an approach where my niche isn't about people who love watches or peanut butter or some specific thing. I just want to target all the people who live in a region. And so when I go to a local business, when I leave here and I'm sitting on the ferry, I'm going to go into this location tag on Instagram and engage with everyone who's ever posted at this place and start building a relationship with all those, like as a one-on-one tactic. And if I talk to 100 people, maybe 10 or 20 of them will look at my profile and then follow me and continue engaging. So over the course of, you could even say a lifetime, I'm going to continue building a relationship. And so at a time, then they can become a customer when I actually have a service to give. But transitioning into that, what I think a lot of brands do wrong with social media is they're taking the old tactics of selling versus branding. And I really believe that it's more important on social media to tell stories and build brand versus try to sell things. So if you guys know a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, I'm actually wearing his shoes. He has this book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And I think it's a very, very good tactic where you're supposed to draw people in by providing good content, and that's either inspiring, educating, or entertaining. And then eventually you give an ask. And a customer, after you've given them so much, are way more willing to give you their dollars after you've provided them that much value. And that relates so much to sales. And sales is really my background. And I've just learned to translate that into storytelling and putting on social media. And so that's my biggest piece of advice, is stop trying to like knock customers out with the big hook, and instead tell stories and build brand and get that allegiance over time, because eventually then they'll be hooked and they'll pay you a lot more money. And so are any of you doing any social media work now, or any of you guys documenting your lives?
Yes.
What are you doing?
I do social media
Okay.
management for a local brewery, which primarily looks like video and photo content creation,
Okay.
and then some blogging as well.
Which brewery?
Twin Sisters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. How long have you been doing that for?
I've been with them for about 1 month.
Okay.
I've been doing the content creation thing for about 12 months, 18 months.
Okay. And so why are you into beer? Is that your thing?
No.
Okay. How'd you end up there then?
I live in Bellingham, and they were a new company that was backed by a lot of money, and I know that they were not effectively running and telling stories online, so I tried to build it explicitly because of those reasons.
Okay. So you just found that they had the need and that you could satisfy it.
Right.
Very interesting. Okay. Anyone else by chance? How many of you guys don't have any social media? I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. So, is there a reason why?
Facebook primarily, yeah, I just don't like the platform.
You just don't like the platform. Okay. Is there any negative feelings towards Facebook?
Privacy-wise?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I totally get it. I mean, I know why. It's scary. We're putting all of our lives out there. And they have a lot of information about us. And eventually, when decisions come up in maybe 10 or 20 years, it'll be very interesting what they end up doing with that data. And I'm so severe on one end that I hope it goes the right way. I hope good-hearted people make those decisions, but I might be completely wrong about this. But related to business, I just think there's so much attention on these online platforms that isn't on TV. And right now, specifically in 2019, before Coca-Cola and AT&T and these big brands put all their budgets behind it, right now is the opportunity for small brands to go all in on these platforms and take advantage, because it's a big land grab, right? And whoever can get that attention right now is really going to create more opportunity later. The reason Amazon is so big is because they spent the most money on Google AdWords when Google AdWords were inexpensive. And now that's put them up on this big platform, and everyone has Amazon Prime. And I think the same thing's going to happen with Facebook and Instagram in different kind of ways, and then it'll get regularly priced because all the big companies come and put all their budgets in. Hopefully something comes out that is new for everyone else. Yes?
So I've been reading that large brands are falling in and out of love with Facebook. They tried it, they didn't see any results, they pulled back from it, and they tried it again in a different way. You seem to have an attribution model that suggests that it's definitely having a return on your investment.
Yes.
And how do you measure? Is it links on clicking through links to RFIs, or how are you so confident when I'm reading so much about so many other large brands that are not confident in their spend?
I think a lot of large brands, how they're organized or how they're structured, doesn't create the opportunity for them to move quickly. And they have old systems that they need to go through, and there's a lot of times red tape. So I've got a few friends who work at some of the big news agencies downtown, and they are trying to create YouTube channels, but the YouTube videos that the millennials create actually still go through the same editing process and approval process that the news broadcast goes through, so that it looks like what they're putting on TV. And when they put it on YouTube, no one wants to see that, because people who are on YouTube are looking for something specific. And that goes across all platforms. When you open up Facebook or you open up Instagram or Snapchat or wherever it is, your brain acts differently on each platform. And so brands aren't creating enough contextual content for each vertical, right? When you go on Instagram, you see it looks different than everything on Facebook, right? Same thing on Snapchat, on Twitter. And a lot of brands are still trying to take that commercial system where it's like, let's just put it everywhere and have it all look the same. And I just don't think that's not going to be how we use these platforms in the future. And I just think they're still so new that I'm not an expert. I don't think anyone's really an expert. It's still very experimental. But the way I've seen it work with the 2 years I've been doing it is people find me in real life and they say hi. And that like blows my mind. And that's just been from the consistency of putting content out and being there every single day and telling my story. Putting my face out there has been very important. And yeah, these people come up and they're like, I saw your video. I know who you are. I'm at this coffee shop because of that. And those have really been the results that I've been tailoring. I know a lot of data people aren't going to love that as much as an answer, but that's really why I believe in it, because the connections that I've made in real life, I mean, the reason why I'm here is because of it.
If there's a lesson that I can take away from there, it's customize your content by channel.
By channel and by audience, right? Because there's a lot of diversity here in this room, and a different message is going to appeal to the different people. And so that is still getting developed. There's not really a lot of marketing companies out there who have figured that system out. Creating that much creative is very difficult, right? Yeah, especially design-wise and appealing to all the different demographics. That is like, I think, the next frontier of design to be able to scale that out in some type of way. It's going to take a while to develop that. But I just think that that's where it's going. We all expect these customized, tailored products for us now, right? We're getting things shipped to our houses. Our feeds are already tailored to us. And so I think that's just becoming the expectation of the consumer, to get things quick, have it speak directly to you, and have a personal connection to it.
So I'm curious to kind of take back to what we've been talking about in class, and like, how do you define what the stories are that you tell when you're working with the business, and then how do you ensure that those stories are, because specifically in Seattle, you're working in lots of different neighborhoods that have different demographics. How do you make sure those stories are appropriate or inclusive as you develop them?
Yes, and I've actually struggled with that, like trying to find out what the audience wants, because there is such a diverse audience of people. And I think what's really important is, for me as an individual, to keep creating, I've got to do things that appeal to me. So when I meet a business owner, if they've got an interesting story, that's really what I connect with, and that's the story I want to share. But as far as being more inclusive, I think that just that's about being authentic to yourself and finding what's important to you, and then telling those stories from there. For a bigger business, you need to, stick within your vertical, but I think there's a lot of stories that a business might find is boring, that they are not, that the normal audience would find very appealing. So I work with a company called Root Cause Seattle, and what he does is he maintains all of the downtown trees around the city. And so he installs porous pavement around all of the city trees. And what porous pavement does is It's really good for the roots because all the rainwater goes straight through the pavement into the roots. But it also, because of the flexibility, when people are walking all over it, it doesn't destroy the roots. And the roots are like the heart and soul of a tree. If you ruin the roots, the tree's over. Well, we see this beautiful thing coming out of the ground, but that's really not the lifeblood of that organism. And for the longest time, he was just like, oh, it's just boring, right? Like I'm installing pavement and trees. Trees are exciting, but he didn't really understand that his story and his mission and all the little details that he has is actually really intriguing, especially to downtown Seattle. And all these people are walking by the construction that he's doing on every single corner. And so we've started to just film him doing all the work, giving some narrative of what he's working on, and then running the ads at everyone downtown so they all see it. So it's like, hey, when you're in Belltown and you're on 3rd and Blanchard and you walk by these guys, this is what they're doing right now. And this is who they are. And this is why they're doing it. And this is how they're improving the city. And then what we do is we also run those ads specifically at Seattle City employees, which we can target on Facebook. And we make sure that anyone who works in the city knows that Brian is the tree guy. So if they have a question with their work that comes down to trees, that they call Brian. And that's kind of been the whole narrative with getting him out there and finding just things that are unique about his business and pulling those stories out of him that he wouldn't have found interesting. I know that doesn't fully answer your question.
You just said that you were using an overlay to target city employees in Seattle.
Yeah, the Facebook has that data. Yeah, employees of is an amazing tool. If you want to target Amazon employees, you can target anyone whose Facebook profile says they work at Amazon. A use case I have for that is I help the company that does all the runs around Green Lake, promotion events, and so they have very specifically themed runs every season, every month, and they had a dog run, a dog 5K where they wanted everyone to bring their dogs, and so we did a campaign where we ran ads directed at Amazon employees with 5 pieces of creative. We had 5 different types of dogs in the ad, and then we ran it at people who were downtown Seattle, who worked at Amazon, and who loved these kind of dogs, right? So it was like, who likes, what are those white fluffy ones? Samoyeds, pugs, corgis, golden retrievers, and there was another one in there. Yeah, but we changed the creative, and we sold out immediately. It was all Amazon employees who went to this run. We also doubled up that campaign at their lunchtime. We sat by those spheres where they have a dog park, and we passed out flyers to everyone with a dog. And that was extremely, extremely successful. And so, yeah, just kind of thinking backwards based off who's the audience, who's the customer, finding the right places to target them, having a good piece of creative. I can't stress how important that part is, but I think that's why a lot of big businesses have struggled with that is the creative has been the factor. It just hasn't told the right story and been there. And so what I've been doing to experiment with that is I put micro budgets into everything I create now. There's very little organic exposure that you get on Instagram and Facebook because they're flooded, right? Everyone's trying to be an influencer now. That's what every kid coming up in elementary school, they don't want to be an astronaut. They want to be a YouTube star. And so, yeah, just everyone's trying to live their best life there. And so I think if you're working with businesses, to be putting dollars behind that is very helpful right now. And that's how you can start to learn what works, because if the $5 performs really well, then it's like, all right, let's put an extra $20 into it. We can put $100 into it and really get the message out there even more.
Are you running likes campaigns to build audience, or just running conversion?
I'm running it all. I'm running it all. I actually have been running more likes campaigns, and it really depends on the business, right? If you're trying to sell socks, you should run conversion ads, right? You need to get them to the store, at least be capturing the pixel data so you can remarket to them, getting their information and getting them through the process to buy socks. But if you're a service business or you're a local brewery and you need people to come to you, those things don't convert the same way, right? It takes time to build it up. So if you can tell stories, you can get people convinced in a different way. And so I work with a lot of brick and mortar retail establishments so we can tell more stories. And I think when you get the like is still very valuable, in my opinion, when they like your page, because then you have them at the top of the funnel, right? At least the social funnel. And you can run ads. Facebook lets you run the ads directly at people who like your page. So they're only going to give you 1 to 5% organic exposure, but you can boost that with a couple dollars and make sure you can target that. And on that point, I think not enough businesses and people are just running like organic selfie videos, right? If you're on Instagram stories, you can tell when you're going through all your friends like faded iPhone feeds, and then you get to like this beautiful curated commercial. Immediately think it's an ad, like swipe, get out of there. What I've been telling all the businesses to do is just do this, right? Hey, I'm Ty with Super Jock and Jill. We're out here in the store today. Green Lake's path is wide open because it just snowed, and people really connect with that authenticity. And it looks like everything else in their feed, so it tricks them a little bit, right? They just think it's their friend creating like a silly selfie video. And not enough businesses are like, there's a lot of ego getting in the way. It needs to be a commercial when we're all used to what things look like on here, and I just don't think it needs to be. You can make it so simple right now.
Just to make sure language is level.
Yes.
Can you explain organic and vertical so that everybody has, make sure that everybody's got the same?
Oh yes. So when I say organic, so how and the algorithm works on the timelines and the feeds is you post a picture, and then Instagram and Facebook at all the platforms are going to analyze how the first 1% of the audience sees it before they decide to show it to more people. And then they start boosting it up. The more popular the content is based off engagement. So that's likes, how much time they spent looking at it, did they comment on it, did they share it, and then they boost it up to where you get more of. So the way they curate, so you can see things that are more tailored to you, is all about how good the content is and how quickly people engage with it. It's a good.
Is everybody, so that's organic.
Oh, with vertical, I just meant with the right audience.
Your market.
Your market segment, correct. Yes?
Sarah, do you have any tips for introverts?
It's a great question. And so I assume you're an introvert. When you're an introvert, do you struggle with like putting yourself on camera or sharing, or is it more you need time to go away to like recharge your batteries and have like private time?
It's the FaceTime on the camera.
Yeah. I honestly don't have a ton of advice. It took me just a while to just really get comfortable with it. And I talked to a lot of people. It's like, oh, well, you look comfortable. And it's like, well, I just started doing it. And I realized that people made a big connection with my face. So why I say putting your face on there is like, that is always going to stick. We like in our DNA, we connect with humans, and eye contact is so important. And so thinking about that psychology with the audience, I just made the decision that I want to be making that eye contact because I want to make those connections with all these individuals on a one-on-one level. But as far as being an introvert, I'm not sure.
So in that case, like let's say an introvert has a great product and they're looking to start their business, would you recommend them either finding another face to the brand or hiring someone like you to help craft content? You know, like, because I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really just comes down to self-awareness and what you're good at and what you're comfortable doing. And if you're not comfortable doing that and you believe that it would be the right thing to put a face to the brand, then yeah, it's about finding someone else. Or it's about just getting out of your comfort zone and saying, I can tell the story the best. And if you're starting a company, you've got to have those relationships with customers. I think it's really interesting in business, being an introvert or extrovert and dealing with the ups and the downs of both sides, because it's hard to run a business and not constantly be flooded with people, right? Like you're always going to be managing both sides of the coin, young people, old people, all different types. And so you got to play to your strengths. But yeah, if being on camera is not your thing, I would say you want to find a different way to tell a story. So if you like to write, you should be writing and not be doing video. Or if you like to talk and you're worried about the camera, you could do a podcast and create a different form of content that communicates in a way that you're comfortable. Yes?
Can I piggyback on that as well? When I think of social media, there's the media part, which is the content creation part, and then I also think of the social part, which I think we neglect sometimes, but that is just engaging with the community online. And it's not in front of the camera, it's in front of the computer, but building those relationships by just actively responding to people, building that dialogue on Facebook, on Instagram, is something that
yeah, that's a good point. It's just that one-on-one, because it's not like you're against having conversations with people, right? It's just like you need some alone time, gather your thoughts. I assume I'm making judgments. I know, but yeah, the internet might actually create more flexibility for you to do that one-on-one combat, right? Like going selling door to door would probably not be something that excites you at all. But you can maybe tactically do that on a Twitter or Instagram or Facebook because there's less barrier to starting the conversation. And that's been really important for me to build a business because especially Instagram and Twitter DM, you can slowly be building up the relationships by just starting authentic conversations with people and not necessarily have to have your face in front of them until you're comfortable to do that.
That's a really good point. I think this is true for small brands and big brands alike, is that really love the way you frame this, is there's the media piece, but there's the social piece. And
Yes.
a lot of the way that businesses first approach, and still do approach, social media in general, is that it's a platform for me to put my content out on. It's a platform for me to talk at potential customers. And that's not effective, and I think that's why a lot of big brands, to Rob's point, a lot of big brands like went all in on social media and then like, wait, this isn't working, and then backed up, and are now trying to come back in. Like, how do we do this right? Because it's not about the media piece. It's not another platform for publishing. It is somewhere that you need to engage, and you need to have that social aspect. And so, particularly with smaller brands, when you start, that's hard because it's so much work just to create awesome
Yes.
content, just to even start the outbound communication. But if you're not prepared to have that dialogue, and to actually have the social aspect of it, people don't respond, or you don't hold their attention for long. And as someone who's like growing an infant social media program for Sound Transit, like where it's like really exciting and people love us is when we have that two-way communication. So Twitter has become our primary customer service platform, whereas it used to just be phone calls. And Instagram has become our most engaging platform because we have people actively comment and respond to questions and build excitement. And I go back to my phrase that was part of my Zoom lecture, which is meaningful connections, or right, I've already lost it. Heartfelt connections make meaningful relationships, right? And so you actually have to be willing to give the time and energy to making connections with individuals, and that's what leads to those relationships for the long term.
And that's way easier when you're small than when you're big. When you're big, having that cohesive voice becomes very difficult. But yeah, it's a lot of one-on-one interactions with people because the one-on-one interactions at any level of the company really is where you build strong brand. That's where you get a loyal following, right? People go to the donut shop every Saturday because they love the people who work there and they love the product, right? And there's that customer service side to it. And what I teach a lot of the brick and mortar businesses is a lot of times they have a customer service model inside the store and that doesn't translate online. But now with these social tools, it's the first time ever that you can reach someone on their couch at 10 p.m. the day after they've been to the store. And you actually have some of that information of, oh, this person was there, they either had a good experience or didn't have a good experience, and you can tackle that in your own way. So you have a little bit more access to your customers to make it better or make it right and turn things around or just grow that following. And I think a lot of businesses don't do enough of that, right? Responding, engaging in conversations, giving that feedback. Obviously, that's really expensive because it's very time consuming. But if any of you are starting your own companies or starting your own brands, telling your own stories, that's the best time to do it, right? I'm not sure how you all feel about when you spend time on your cell phone, but like if you've got an hour on the bus on your commute, it's the best time to just go leave comments, right? Just go search for things that you're passionate about. I want to look at everyone who posted a peanut butter and jelly sandwich this week, and I want to comment on them because eventually they'll see my peanut butter that I'm trying to sell, right? And I just want to talk about what peanut butter they're using and why, and building that dialogue.
Speaking of time-consuming tasks, can you talk about like the breakdown and how you prioritize the like content creation versus engagement versus like the revenue?
Yes, and I've been struggling with this because it's a juggle. It's a big juggle. What I try to do is I try to document as much, and then I set bricks. I take a couple hours whether it's every day or every week, to go and sift through all that content. But Instagram Stories has been a great way to find out what people really like and what they don't like and what they respond to, which I funnel that into all the other products, right? All the other channels. But Buffer has become a very good tool of mine that I've been using. All of the schedulers I use for all the clients, right? So I really take, if I'm working with a client, it's all right, 6 hours on Monday, I'm shooting all the content, I'm editing, doing any of that work, and then I spend an hour scheduling it all. So I have the whole week lined up, and then I sync it up with my Google Calendar so I know everything that's going out on their channels or all the ads, so that I get a notification. It's like, all right, this is getting posted in an hour. I need to go check in on these things. But that scale as an individual, when I just have outsourced contractors, is become the hardest part of the business. Is just juggling when to create. I've got 5 videos that I need to go edit, sitting on the backlog, and my Evernote checklist is just being organized and staying on top of what's priority. The clients always get first. I always do client work first, make sure they're all scheduled, and then Find Me in Seattle gets those evening slots. You have a question?
Yeah, I'm curious to know if you've used overseas outsourcing for button clicking or creating a branded voice and having those folks at a cheaper price than you doing it personally engage in the messaging, the engagement piece, the going out and actually liking and trying to build audiences versus doing it in-house.
I have not done any of it. I've seen other brands do it, and it just doesn't feel authentic to me. But also when we talk about your reputation as an individual or an employer or a worker or an entrepreneur, people it's turned from reputation to personal brand. And so I take a very long-term perspective in all these things. As long as I live in Seattle, Find Me in Seattle can continue to evolve and be a thing. So I'm not trying to rush to hit these certain metrics of likes or I guess conversions, because I just want to do one-on-one. I want to meet as many people in my niche over the next 5 years as possible, so that when I get to the time where I need to really make the ask, I've built up all those relationships. And I could see that there's value. What?
You're talking about for Find Me in
Yep.
Seattle, not for the client work.
And the clients, I just don't think that's authentic. I think it's hard. And I've actually been really worried about using bots for social platforms because you can get penalized for them.
Right, I'm talking about real people.
Oh, real people, like going in and giving them the login? No, I haven't. I'm not brave enough to do it yet. That's really what it comes down to. I just believe so much in authenticity that everything comes from me or comes from the client. So all of my clients that I work with, there's always a consulting piece that there's an ask for them to be involved in the process, right? Teaching them about these platforms, how we're using them, how they need to go engage. Like the root guy, we get questions all the time and I just can't answer the questions. So he needs to have an active participation in the platform to go to answer these technical questions. So I think as far as the agency goes, there needs to be a system to make sure the decision makers have some type of active participation so they can jump in with those. Have you had success with them?
If you can create a branded voice, and my strategy is do it myself until I know what the trends are, and then create frequently asked questions with answers in a branded voice that's consistent with who I'm working with, and then hiring overseas and saying this is the service level agreement,
Yeah.
4 hours or less for responding to comments.
Okay. I should probably experiment with that. Do you have any recommendation?
Yeah, use Upwork.
Upwork, okay.
Find someone, try out a bunch of people, and find the one you like, and then keep them.
Okay, so you're not working with an agency, you're finding like individual contractors to work with. Okay. That makes sense. I haven't gone to the customer service aspect with that. I've gone to editing videos, editing photos, scheduling posts, that kind of stuff. But I haven't gone into the customer engagement part yet.
We can step back. What are you guys talking about?
So online, you are like you're engaging with some Facebook brand. You're engaging with the brand on Facebook. You ask them a question. Someone has to actually respond to that question. I can respond to that as an individual. Say, hey, this is the answer to your question. Over time, people ask the same questions. So I can keep doing that as an individual and say, here's my response, or here's my canned response. Or I can say, here's my canned response, and I can hire someone overseas they're going to spend, because we're in this like globalized economy, I can hire people in different time zones and say, for this 8-hour period, you're in charge of responding within 4 hours of someone posting something on this client's website or this client's Facebook page. Your job is to identify, is it a frequently asked question? If so, canned response. If not, then send it up.
You gotta triage it, yeah.
To someone else.
It's essentially the social media version of an outsourced call center.
Yes.
Which is cheaper labor, but they get your standards and your scripts, and they can respond on your behalf if you're not available.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense for bigger scale companies, right? If you're Intel, right, and every second you're getting mentioned, you've got to triage that in some type of way. I haven't worked with that scale. I'm working with all local small businesses that are trying to compete with those big agencies.
I respond individually to all the ones to Presidio Grad school now.
And for the school, I think that's mandatory, right? Because there's so few people here, right? The individual relationship, you have to embody what happens here in the school on the online presence. And people can tell, right? Because that's going to usually be the first point of contact, right? And so whatever your customer service model and system is in the school, I think that makes a lot of sense. Because then they feel like they have a connection with you. I'm not sure if you put it out there of who you are, but I'm sure that authenticity comes out.
I started individually, and move their questions to a subject matter expert if I need to, but it's something that I can incorporate.
Just get it done. Has that been working for you?
You have, it's funny, I see right now in our campaigns, because now we're with 2 digital strategists, and we move more of our spend towards campaigns, away from strict requests for information conversions. I've seen a lot of fraud in campaigns. I'm seeing a lot of geographic dispersion. It's our overlay is very tightly focused on geography in certain parts of the United States, but I'm seeing a lot of lakes by geography inserting way outside of that geography. So I'm trying to manage that right now.
Yeah.
And understand what we're getting caught up in.
Okay.
It's also translated to spam in our RFI filters.
Interesting.
So I'm
Very
trying to figure out how that's happening.
Okay.
What's an RFI?
When they're doing a request for information, we're getting scamming requests in our Salesforce. We have an ask for more information page, and so they're going through that, but they're incomplete, and they're also fairly fake. Fake numbers, fake names, fake addresses.
What's the website built on? Is it WordPress?
Yeah.
And do you have a CAPTCHA? Do you have anything that prevents robots?
I've gone back and forth with CAPTCHA.
Yeah.
It's actually going to decrease people's appetite to fill out an RFI or whatever. We don't have that much spam. It's just when we started doing like campaigns.
Oh,
We're now getting.
interesting. Because it's probably showing up on robots' radars that's running against it. And do you guys have a Facebook pixel on the website?
Yeah.
Are you retargeting the people who land on the website from the pixel?
I'm about to restart that.
Yes. I think that might help also.
Facebook Pixel? Anybody know what that is?
Okay, just take a step back. Google and Facebook both have this piece of code that you insert to your website that tracks you. So when you are looking at boots on Nordstrom and it shows up on your Facebook page and in your Google search, it's because they placed a cookie when you went to the website and then they retargeted you to try to convert you. So if you are also selling an e-commerce product and you put it in your cart and you abandon the cart and then you see the product at discount 10 minutes later, it's because they've actually tracked you through the whole process and then retargeted you. And these are all free tools that we all have. And so what you can do with Facebook's become really popular because you can get that data, which they connect to the Facebook profile, but they also take it a step further and they give you lookalike profiles. So they will take the data of Connor and say, okay, Connor's into all these things. He lives in this area. Here's what we know about him. Let's find all the other people who look like Connor. And then you can run it at all those people. So you get new people coming in that kind of fit your target demographic. So when you start to know who your customer is, you can really like get down and dirty about who you're targeting. They don't let you get down to an individual level, but if you wanted someone to see your ad, you can definitely get them to see your ad.
Yeah, Facebook is very sophisticated. So when we're talking about likes campaigns and action campaigns, so likes is literally a campaign to get people to like your site. The thinking being is that the more likes over time, as Connor said, it's going to translate over a longer period towards conversions and engagement with your content, which will look overall. It's a longer term play than actually getting people to buy stocks right now. The other thing that you can do for all of your EL partners and for your businesses alike is you can do custom audiences on Facebook. And so custom audiences is if I were to upload all of the email addresses, the personal email addresses for every Presidio alumni, all 1,922 of them, download a list, I can upload it into the back end of Facebook, and Facebook will churn through it, and we'll take a look at likes that are in common, geographies, all types of different factors. And then I can take this profile, this persona profile, and then I can find more people out in the Facebook universe that are just like Presidio alumni, and then deliver ads, likes, whatever, directly to that persona. So that's a custom defined audience. So instead of only using Facebook's demographic, psychographic, likes and dislikes overlays, I'm creating a custom variety of that based off known customer conversions to Presidio Graduate School. And this is all it takes a little while to get into the back end of Facebook to understand how to use this, but it's not that complicated. It just takes a little bit of time, and it's a CSV sheet. It's nothing fancy. You're just downloading it into a spreadsheet and then uploading it again, and then Facebook does all the work in order for you. So you can create all of these great overlays, all of these great campaigns, and as Connor suggested, Facebook has a huge number of their own learning tools for you to be able to use Facebook as a marketing platform. And then over YouTube, there's a whole bunch of experts who excel at
That's a lot.
training people just because they like to train, and this stuff is all free and accessible online.
Yeah.
So within the span of the course, we don't have the ability to train you all to be Facebook marketing expert, even if that's what you wanted to be, which I'm not sure all you do. But there are a huge number of self-help tools to get to know Facebook, and it is an increasingly powerful platform, and particularly for small businesses. I still think the jury's still out on larger businesses around authenticity.
Yeah.
But for smaller businesses, it is a really great way to engage audiences. I whispered in Alfredo's earlier, for She Change, for that EL project, it seems like Facebook would be a really powerful platform to engage more audiences.
Yeah, especially if you have powerful stories.
And that functionality, the ability to take your database of customers and put them somewhere and figure out who they are, and then develop marketing specifically for them, that's not new because Facebook now does this. There are lots of agencies who've been around forever, like Nielsen, who does consumer research. There's one called Prism that has developed like 49 customer segments that every single person in the United States fits into one of these identified customer personas. And if you just Google Prism personas, you can look up what they are. But this was something that I was doing in marketing back in like early 2000s, was taking a database of all of our customers, running it through the Prism filter, and it's based on the theory that birds of a feather flock together, right? So based on the street that you live on, you are like all these other people who live on this street. So if you have addresses in your customer database, it can tell you that of all your customers, 90% of them fit into these 5 personas. And these 5 personas have these characteristics. And we know this based on credit card purchases. We know this based on phone company history. We know this based on address and location. So this ability to do this, to create personas based on past purchase history, has been around for decades.
Yeah.
It's, I think, interesting and new and exciting that now Facebook is in that space.
Brings that part to the smaller business. I think Amanda mentioned Canva earlier, which I use, which is an amazing creative suite to be able to churn out ads for these platforms individually paid in a free version of it. And free version is actually fairly capable.
It's very
we're using it
capable.
a lot right now at Presidio. Chris mentioned Upwork to find contractors to help write copy. You can use Upwork to find photographers to do photography. So amongst you all here, there's been a little mini lab around like kind of self-marketing got the power of the demographic and message delivery machine that previously was only available to large brands. We've got Canva and other free tools that were previously available only to designers to create ads fairly quickly and at a low cost. And then we've got the ability to contract through Upwork and other platforms with folks that are specialized in this area to create copy. So it is possible for even smaller businesses to use the challenger brand philosophy to challenge the existing players in their markets at a fairly low cost. And then you bolt that to AWS, Amazon services for fulfillment, it really levels the playing field for smaller businesses in terms of competing against larger incumbents. And that's one message that we hope to deliver in this class is that increasingly it's a chaotic, crowded market, but there are tools for good products and good content to surface to the top and to create success.
I just have one final comment for Connor, but where do you see this all in 5 years? Where my question's coming from is just, it does seem like small to small is really where the leverage is, but that's not where the dollars are right now for Facebook. And then, are they going to make it over this hump because there's so much usefulness in that kind of actually where they actually do kind of create some community and particularly empowering small businesses versus the larger story of surveillance state and yada yada yada.
Yes.
And is it really going to be a place where big companies can spend dollars, or is it not really built for that and it's eventually going to fail because of that?
I think it's going to be interesting because all of the top 500 companies are all declining, and all these companies are coming in and taking market share because they're specializing, right? So that's why Dollar Shave Club comes in, disrupts the whole market shelf up there, and then they get acquired for $1 billion.
Right.
And so it's going to be interesting to see these big companies, do they continue to be the big companies? Coca-Cola and Pepsi are here to stay, right? Some of the big ones are not going anywhere, I don't think, anytime soon. But as the smaller companies come in and they came in with different tactics, how do those tactics change? Where I do think the change is going to happen is social media is the current state of the internet. That's about it. In 5 years, Facebook, Instagram might just be the same as television, right? Because Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, Snapchat, it is ABC, NBC, MTV, CNN. It's all the same concepts. We just consume it on a different device. And when you think about it that way, it kind of like changes the perspective. These are just the modern channels that people are consuming content. And so in 5 years, it might just be a completely different channel where small businesses can take advantage of less expensive attention. And I think the concept of attention is becoming more of a currency that has a cost relation. And it's just about, for small businesses, exposing where they can take advantage of that cheap, the inexpensive audience.